So, is Canal Playhouse? How much y'all asking for Canal Playhouse? Canal Playhouse is 100,000. Canal Playhouse. And Brownsville Museum of Fine Arts.
Trying to hire a veterinarian.
I think Rick will help you.
It's bullshit. They're already hiring. They're already trying to hire a veterinarian.
Yeah.
Take $40 for the copies, right?
Good yourself.
Please rise.
Mayor, would you like for me to read the call first?
Yeah, read the call.
Notice of public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a special meeting on Tuesday, September 11th, 2007, at 6 p.m. in the Commission Chambers on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas.
Face the flag. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Republic, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Honor
The Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Deacon Kench, would you lead us in a prayer? You do it in church? You are a deacon, aren't you?
Yeah, wants to table that, all right? No, I want to kill that one.
Yeah, we should.
Just kill it? Let's kill it.
Dear God, we ask you to give these gentlemen guidance as they deliberate about the matters before them tonight. We know that each one wants to do the best for the city, and so we pray in your name. Amen.
I would ask if we would please have a moment of silence for the victims of 9/11.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Amen.
I can't respond to him. He wants to ask about it.
We'll go to the public comment period. I'm going to read the rules. These are the rules we must abide by. Please ask the commission to refrain from interacting directly, indirectly with the people speaking on any issue or any theme. That is to say, we do not speak to third parties or directly to those coming before us.
Mayor, would you, the mic? Your mic?
Microphone.
Thank you. Y'all heard me, though, I'm sure. Okay. The public forum is designated for speakers to address the commission on a subject that is not a public hearing. And city attorney, if the subject is a public hearing and I may not be on that tab, please point out that it's a public hearing, okay?
Yes, sir.
There is a 3-minute time limit per speaker. The speaker must identify by name before speaking. Public comment forms are located on the second floor at the entrance of the commission chambers on the day of the meeting. Public comment forms must be filled out and presented to the city secretary's staff 15 minutes prior to the meeting to be considered recognized. Public comment forms are not accepted after 6 p.m. Okay, with that in mind, I'd like for the speakers to speak to the chair and not to any individual or make any personal attacks. The first one to speak is Mr. Resendez. We have 15 minutes of public comments because we have a meeting, and please understand that after the 15 minutes are up, then they're up. Mr. Resendez, thank you for coming. You're always welcome here.
My name is Reverend Alex Resendez, and I come in peace. I come in peace today. No attacking nobody. I hope so. I wrote a letter to Carlos Rodriguez, the Brownsville Herald, letter to the editor, which is Carlos Rodriguez, and I took it personally to the Brownsville Herald. I'm thanking in my letter the mayor, the commissioners, and also the manager or whoever's involved on giving sandbags to the people, you know. I have reason to believe that even though the people were filling out the bags, you all did great. You all did great because the bags were given before it started raining. I was very concerned on that because if you would allow me, I'll try to read the letter as fast as I can. It says, Carlos Rodriguez, editor, Brownsville Herald. I don't know if he's put it on the Brownsville Herald or not. This was made about a week ago, on the 9th, the 4th, the 7th. It says, sandbags, thank you, Brownsville Herald, for posting my letter on April the 19th on the dream I had of floods that could hit Texas and the USA. Many people have prayed against this flooding and coming hurricanes. I also would like to thank, first of all, I would like to thank God that we were spared, you know. Half of the United States being under flood. México, allá en México, toda la pobre gente allá se está ahogando ahorita. I don't know if we got television, you know, this is a true fact, you know. I also would like to thank our city manager, our city mayor, the commissioners. Yo había hablado con el señor Leonel Garza on this, and he answered the phone all the time, so I'm very glad, you know, that people answer. For giving the order to let people get their sandbags. My dream has come true, so people save your sandbags. I mean, yo quisiera que la gente, si pueden guardar las sandbags, sería bueno, porque we still got some more rain coming, maybe. And getting ready for the floods and possible Hurricane Felix or others. May God spare us from these rains, and pray and thank God that we were spared, you know. I understand Jeff Johnson, he did a good job on this, Leo Garza, and the commissioners and the mayor, and also Mr. Kepler, he must have given the order. Because I was calling some of the commissioners, I didn't have any response. See, Resendez, we're going to give the sandbags. Somebody told me we're going to give the sandbags not until it starts raining. Pues ustedes saben que when it starts raining, las viejitas no pueden. I saw a lot of old ladies filling them up. You all gave 20 sandbags a cada persona, y vi muchos carros. I saw a lot of people getting sandbags. This is wonderful. I mean, this is a positive thing. I would like also to ask a question.
Unfortunately,
because
you're
I
out
heard-
of time, Mr.
My
Vicente.
time is over?
Time's
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
We'll save that for the next chapter.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Roy Gonzalez, please.
Commissioners, my name is Roy Gonzalez, and I've come just on some issues that we're going to discuss. All these organizations, Gladys Porter Zoo, the Brownsville Museum, and the Camille Playhouse, they're all worthy of the city's help. The only thing I question is the amount of money that you guys are considering to help. I think in proportion to each, for example, the Gladys Porter Zoo, I think if you reduce it to half, it would be considerate of you to do that, and considering also the citizens of Brownsville, because it's coming from us. Also, we have to get it in our heads that these organizations need a hand up, not a handout. By that I mean they should not expect this every year. So consequently, what we need to do is get with these people that run these organizations and get grant writers that can help them maintain a budget, maintain the organization's buildings and so forth open. I mean, I'm happy that the museum cost $1 million to build. Okay, I'm really happy about that. But again, the museum, as I hear, what the particular grade that they gave the museum wasn't exactly, it was more mediocre than anything else. And I'm not trying to cause a problem, but at the same time, maybe it was because of lack of personnel or lack of money. But if we can get that and get grant writers to help these organizations, it's better than them expecting it from the city and the citizens of Brownsville. Also, I'd like to thank you guys for Imagine Brownsville. The only problem I have is how we're going to fund that. You know, how are we going to get all these millions of dollars to do this? That's another question. So consequently, we need to think long and hard about how we're going to do this. And that's basically what I have, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Gonzalez. Okay, the third person, Mr. Romeo Montalvo.
Mayor, I'm Dr. Montalvo. I'm a local pediatrician, aficionado of the arts, a collector, and very proud to be from Brownsville. And I'm so delighted that we have what we have. I came from a small town, 5,000 people. My family was in the ranching business. They're still in the ranching business. And, I've come a long way. And the reason I come a long way is because I think big. I don't like to think small. Yes, it takes money to be able to bring money. And sometimes we need help. If it wouldn't have been for the banks, the student loans, I wouldn't be where I am now. We, the museum, the fine arts, is in dire need. I'm all for Imagine Brownsville. We're going to spend approximately, I think by what the newspaper said, about $270,000 over 2 years. It's a thought. You know, our museum is a reality. It's there. It's a matter of time that it's like a kid that just starts walking. We need help. You know, if a kid doesn't learn how to walk, he won't be able to walk, and he's going to be on a wheelchair the rest of his life. We really need your help. I agree with Mr. Gonzalez. You know, we live in a poor community, but, you know, this poor community is trying to do something to improve the situation for our community. We cannot think small. We have to figure ways to help each other. Right now, we're asking for help for the museum. Whatever you can do for us, we'd appreciate it, and I guarantee that if you give us monies, we are going to really take care of it. Contrary to the grants, if we were to get grants, they cannot pay for the everyday maintenance of the museum. They can be held for exhibitions. Each exhibition, if we're bringing something of quality, it's going to cost $30,000, $40,000. If we want to bring anything from elsewhere, it costs insurance, travel, the whole thing, transport, packing, the whole thing. It's expensive running a museum. But at the same time, it does bring a lot of I'd say future to our community. You know, when people come to Brownsville, we've lost quite a few physicians in my profession. I think some people in my profession, because the wives or the spouse don't find anything to do. There is no activities. Fortunately, things are changing. Things are getting better. I still remember coming to Brownsville 29 years ago, looking for a pastrami, and they sent me to the center to the salami. We had no pastrami. Now you go to H-E-B and we got everything you want. Now let's have a museum and get everything that we need. Let's help all the organizations that need help to bring more people and enlighten our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montalvo. Doctor. Mr. Reese.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor. I visited yesterday at the PUB. I was not aware that there was not going to be a meeting that had been canceled. But the idea of my being there is to address the board there, sir, concerning this outrageous reconnection fee of $75. From $25 to $75, I am familiar with the process. It takes a guy from the PUB to drive, let's say, to my part of town, maybe about 10 minutes. He gets here, and in 5 minutes, the meter is disconnected, and that person has no more electricity. I understand that there are hundreds of meters disconnected every day. And the question is, sir, is the administration complying with state regulations concerning the weather? If it's too hot or if it's too cold, they're not supposed to disconnect. So if they're not supposed to disconnect, they're in violation. Now then we have a penalty, because the PUB disconnected when they were not supposed to, 5% on the money was not paid, and then $75. That's outrageous, sir. $75 is too much money. $75 is too much money. Of course, you know, that's nothing in comparison to what the state is going to require, and I want for the citizens of Brownsville to be aware for the 6th of November that the state wants $10 billion for you to go and vote on that, because that's the procedure, sir. When you ask for bond money, and this has been my argument all the time with the city, when you propose a bond, general obligation bond or revenue bond, you have to advertise and then let the people go and vote if they want to have to issue that debt. And that's as simple as that. So if the debt is not supposed to be issued because the people have not voted, then we're not, and we have to be specific on what the money is going to be used for. Here they just give a general information. It's not how it's supposed to work, sir. And I have reviewed the law, and it's not the process. It's not the correct process. So people of Brownsville, go and vote no on November the 6th. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Okay, Mr. Shergo.
Let me look at it.
Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to be in front of you. For whatever it's worth, I think you all are doing a great job. I'm down here as a concerned citizen. I'd like to make the board aware of some of the things that maybe you're not aware of, such as one of the issues is requesting public information. Recently, I requested some public information from the city. Simple documents, a file, a couple of tapes, and that was addressed to the City Secretary, Public Information Officer. City Secretary wrote me back, said, "We'll be happy to give you that information, Mr. Shergold, for $300. I used to work for the Dean of the Democratic Party, and he used to tell me two things. He said, one, it doesn't cost to be nice to people, and two, poor people and middle-class people shouldn't be required to be burdened by government regulations. Now, when a person requests some information and your city responds, well, you'll get it for $300, and then you write a nice letter back to the city and tell them, I think that's a little bit expensive, $300. And then they write back and say, no, that's just the right price. Well, guess what? I guess the city doesn't realize that people like the former boss I worked for, the Dean of the Democratic Party, he helped write a law that said that you can write a complaint to the Attorney General. I guess the city didn't know that. So guess what? Attorney General gets involved, says, you know what? They write a letter to the city secretary, and says, we don't understand how you came up with $300. And today you've got a copy of that letter submitted by the Attorney General to the city secretary demanding that they account for the time that they said they were going to allow to make $300. Well, guess what? When they got the letter here, guess what happened? They didn't want to account for what they said in that letter. They said, well, we're going to go ahead just go ahead and copy everything under that Public Information Act for $40. And that was after the Attorney General got involved. See, they didn't understand that I may be half smart, but I had some smarter people teaching me some things. So what my concern is this happening to every citizen in this town who makes their simple request for some information? Are they getting met with a $300 or $500 response to copy a few papers? If that's the case, then we need to change that. Number two, we need to get the city here in compliance and understand, make some workshops, maybe hire a committee to get together and maybe educate some of the folks here. It's not hard. It's not complicated. And guess what? I didn't get that information, that letter, until today. I got the letter today, and it was dated September the 7th. You know why I got it today, not September 7th? Because I was told that fax machine was busy, that they couldn't get it to me. Now, that's not the way that I think you guys want to run the city. And with all due respect, it should never have gotten to this point, and I should never have to come down here and take up for people in this town that don't have any money, that want to come down here and have an open government, and I shouldn't be silenced by the city attorney When he comes over and says this item is in litigation, this item is not in litigation. I stand in front of you because they don't want me to get up here and speak in public. I will not be silenced. I was not trained and taught the Democratic Party to be quiet, and I'm not going to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shergo.
We are nonpartisan.
Okay, that's the end of the public comments. Item number 2, City Secretary, please.
Item number 2, consent agenda items number A.
Move to approve?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Longoria and Commissioner Camarillo. When I ask for the vote, those vote yea, then wait till I ask for the nay vote. Don't try to vote at the same time so the city secretary can record your vote, okay? All in favor to approve?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Item 3.
Item 3, consideration and action to appoint members to the Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau.
I'm Commissioner Leo Garza, and I would like to recommend that we appoint Joyce Brown. Joyce Brown works for Doctors Villarreal and Valle, and I believe she's an office manager. Joyce Brown is very competent, well-liked by the community, and I think she'll do a great job with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So I move that we appoint Joyce Brown.
Commissioner Garza makes a motion to approve Joyce Brown to the Convention Visitors Bureau. Do we have a second? We don't have a second. It dies for lack of a second.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mayor, I'd move to nominate Mr. Ruben Herrera.
Second.
We have a motion, Ruben Herrera, and seconded by Commissioner Cisneros. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay,
How many nays?
3.
I believe it's 4-3.
So it passes. Okay, item number 4.
I believe Joe Kinney, term has expired, so he would like to be reappointed. Joe Kinney from Cobbleheads.
That wasn't on the agenda.
We can still make the, there was also,
Not on the agenda.
I think we can still make it, City Attorney, can we still make the appointment to the Brownsville Convention Visitor Bureau?
We're putting things that aren't on the agenda?
It's
Would you
not
please
that, it's that we don't have a
let the
letter of
attorney answer the
resignation from him
question?
yet.
I'm so,
Yes,
You
it's
put a
fine.
singular instead of,
He can be reappointed.
yes, sir, if there is.
It says members.
but let him answer the question.
Yes, sir, if there is an additional appointment that needs to be made, then we've not read the next item yet. And we-
Okay, the city commission, the city attorney has ruled, okay, do we have a motion to, I'd like to make a motion to appoint, Mrs. Wadwani.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Excuse
We
me,
have a
but
motion and a
didn't-
second to appoint Mrs. Wadwani,
I'm-
seconded by
I'm sorry,
Mr.
you said
Camarillo.
Wadwani? I thought,
Mrs. Wadwani.
Mrs., okay, correct.
Mrs. Wadwani. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. 2 nays? Okay. Let's go to the other item. 5.
So it passes.
Thank you. Item 5.
Item 5, did we do item 4?
Oh, I'm
That
sorry,
item
we
4.
skipped, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Consideration and action to acknowledge a mayoral appointment to the Brownsville Housing Authority.
Okay, this is a housekeeping matter as far as bringing to you who I would like to appoint to, who I am appointing to the Brownsville Housing Authority, and that's Mr. Edward Moore. It's here for consideration and action. It's not supposed to be action,
That's to replace who, Mayor?
but there's a gentleman that's resigning because he's got a conflict, Armando Recio.
Recio resigned.
Yes,
Armando
Armando Recio, banker.
I'll
He had a
second that.
conflict.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item 5.
Item 5, consideration and action to adopt budget amendment resolution number 2007-050 to amend the general fund and capital projects fund by transferring $90,000 from the general fund to the capital projects for animal shelter clinic project.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, a few months ago, there was a department that was set up called the Non-Emergency Ambulance Transfers. This service never came to being, so later on, this department was converted to the Animal Shelter Clinic. There are some funds that are going to be remaining this fiscal year. There's a great need needed for the final completion of the Animal Shelter Clinic. We are requesting, or the animal shelter is requesting, that we use some of this $90,000 that will probably be left over at the end of fiscal year 2007 to be transferred. We want to transfer this to the capital project funds, and so that it can be used for the final completion of the animal shelter clinic. And staff recommends that this be approved.
To make it clear, I had nothing to do with this. We didn't talk about this. It
No,
had
sir.
nothing to do with me, in case anybody thinks I did.
I'll move that it be approved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second by Commissioner Atkinson.
Mayor, real quick, I'd go back. Pete, can you repeat again what exactly this is going for? I was talking to
This $90,000, Commissioner Camarillo, is going to be used for the final completion of the animal shelter clinic. They need approximately $90,000, not only to complete the project, but possibly to buy equipment for the clinic. And there are funds right now in this department, and because we don't know when these funds will actually be used. And normally what we do is we transfer these funds to another fund, which in this case it's called the Capital Project Fund. And that's where all the expenses for the construction of the clinic are being used from. So that's what we are recommending, and there are funds available.
Let me shed a little light, if you don't mind. When the animal shelter was built 3 years ago, I believe, they never finished the clinic, so what they're trying to do is finish the clinic. That's what it is, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Pete, I just feel
We
that,
have a motion, we have a second,
Mayor,
right?
I'm not done yet, Mayor. I'm not done yet. Pete, I just wish that, there's an animal shelter advisory committee that should get discussed. There's also, we're advertising for a veterinarian for this animal clinic. That too, just by speaking to Charlie's, I believe a part of our
That's
new
correct.
budget. So I think, there should be some discussions on that, especially we're gonna finally get it all done. So that's just my remarks.
Staff recommending this?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, we have a motion, a
I'll make
second.
the motion that we approve, and we should not micromanage. We should let staff.
Commissioner's not micromanaging.
Okay,
City
it's
manager
okay.
is
Be
more
recognized, please.
pertinent to the
Commissioner
advisory
Camarillo, please allow to be recognized, and you can have your say-so. But we already have a motion. We have a second by Commissioner Atkinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, if I may though, I have a question on the other ones, just a question. This is on item 4, on your, I was looking here at the paperwork that we were given through by the city staff. Is Mr. Javier Reina still serving on the Brownsville Housing?
No, he resigned because he had a conflict of interest.
He's a landlord.
He called me today and told me that he did not resign.
Well, that's,
I'm just asking a question. Did he resign, Jim?
pose the
Javier
question
Reina?
to the attorney, because the attorney told me he resigned.
Well, I'm not sure, but we've already,
Yeah,
closed
just-
the item.
I'll answer
Wait,
that.
let the attorney speak.
Okay, then I can make sure. Can you put it on again for next week? Because I'd
Yeah,
like
we
to find
will.
out.
We'll verify that.
There was a ruling by HUD that there was a conflict of interest, and you told me he
He's-
resigned,
He's
right?
a landlord.
Wait,
Yeah, but well, we'll discuss it when,
Okay.
I'd like to bring it up and look into that.
I
'cause-
believe I spoke to Mr. Vasquez.
No, I'm talking Mr. Javier Reina.
okay, bring it back next week,
We
okay?
will. We'll straighten it
That's
out.
no problem.
City Attorney, could you also find out, does Father Jerry Frank sit on the CDCB board?
I don't know that.
No, the CD.
Yeah, he does.
Let me.
Sits on the CDCB board.
Let me answer that question. The CDBG board is going to be appointed, CDBC, okay.
If he sits on the CDCB board, isn't there a conflict of interest by him sitting on the BHA board?
The BHA statute has some language. You can't be an officer or an executive of the city and also sit on the BHA board. I don't know if, we just have to look at the definition to see if that board would qualify him as an officer or as an executive.
Would you be kind to bring it back that next week also?
Yes, sir.
For
Just check,
clarity,
yeah.
okay?
Just check, just look into it.
There's no problem there.
We'll double check.
If there is, we can appoint somebody else, okay? Okay, let's go to the next
Thank you.
item. Let's do 6, 7, 8, and 9, I guess, all together. City Secretary?
Okay, item 6, consideration and action to acknowledge or make revisions to the latest proposed fiscal year 2008 budget scheduled for approval on September 17, 2007. Item number 7, consideration and action to provide funding in the amount of $300,000 to the Gladys Porter Zoo. Item number 8, consideration and action to provide funding in the amount of $300,000 to the Brownsville Museum of Fine Arts. Item number 9, consideration and action to approve funding in the amount of $100,000 to the Camille Leitner Playhouse.
Honorable
Okay,
Mayor,
Pete.
members of the City Commission, I am going to possibly go very briefly one of the areas that we discussed last week regarding the budget that has been filed at the City Secretary's office. And our budget is scheduled for approval next Monday, August the 17th, along with the proposed tax rate. And again, the tax rate is almost identical to what the current tax rate is right now. We have kept the tax rate throughout the years almost at the same rate. One of the items that we mentioned to you last week is the need of some of the departments that we have not been able to fund, not necessarily wish list, but some of the I guess positions that they have requested that are not being considered because of lack of funds. And we went over this not in detail last week, but as you can see, the major fund there is the general fund, which equals to around 3.7 million. Altogether is almost 4.2 million in personnel requests that have been requested by various departments, various department directors, that because of the funding that is not available, we will not able to fund. Capital outlay is another area that we looked at, and there are quite a bit of requests by various departments, totaling almost $15 million. Special projects, again, we discussed this last week, for almost $40.5 million requests. Again, the city has plenty of needs, but not enough funding to take care of all the projects that are badly needed. The current general fund budget that has been proposed has a current, and again, this is a budget amount of a shortfall of $1,390,000, meaning that we have revenues of $119,488 plus, and expenditures of $120,878 plus. So that has a budget deficit, not necessarily a deficit, because we do have a beginning balance of approximately, we're hoping right now, the budget that was filed with the city secretary shows 11 million. I estimate that number, based on what has been recorded to date on revenues and expenses, will probably end the year with maybe around 14 million. So that would put our fund balance at the end of 2008 at 13,223,000. Now we are, as we mentioned to you every time we make presentations to you regarding our finances, every time we borrow money and we meet with our 3 rating agencies, one of the things that we discuss with them is that we want to maintain a healthy reserve, and the reserve that we have mentioned to them is 15% of our expenditures. And right now, based on the budget that we have right now, it falls under the 15%. But again, these are budget amounts, not actual amounts. We won't know what the actual number will be possibly until November, early week in November. That's when we close our books for the fiscal year. It takes about 30 days to record every possible receivable and in all accounts, all liabilities. This just chart gives you where the money, the revenues that the city has, and one of the things that stands out, and this includes all the funds. The number one revenue is the property tax followed by the sales tax. And these are the expenditures for all the funds. The main one there is public safety. I'm not going to go into much detail because it'll take a little longer. These are the proposed budgets by fund, and the first column shows the budget for 2007 of 115 million in revenues. We are going up in revenues in fiscal year 2008 by a total of 119,488,000. This gives you a picture of the entire budget. As far as expenditures, we are decreasing expenditures between fiscal year 2007 and 2008. And the main one there, obviously, is the general fund. In 2007, we allocated a large amount for street construction. Obviously, those funds that were earmarked for street construction in 2007, we're not going to be able to fund, and that's the reason why you have a major decrease there in the general fund of almost 1.7 million. Community development continues to show declines or decreases in our expenses and revenues, so that's 1.6 million right there. This is a summary of the entire, and this is just the general fund. And again, this particular schedule shows, on the second column, shows what the current budget is for the general fund. In other words, there was a budget that was submitted earlier, which showed a $15 million deficit, and right now it shows 1.3 million.
Pete, can I have a question? The budget is premised on a 5% increase. Is that correct?
5% increase?
In sales taxes?
That's correct.
Okay. And we received a fax today that indicated that actually permits were down from last year considerably, building permits. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. In the area of permits, one of the declines that we keep seeing is the housing. The housing market, as far as construction for housing, has shown a decline. What has shown an increase is the commercial. Of course, commercial, right now if you look at about 2.2%. If you compare the permits that were issued for the 11th month ending August, and we're talking about the fiscal year, we're showing about a 2.21% decrease in the overall building permits that have been issued between fiscal year 2006 and 2007.
So we're pretty much on par with 2006, but we're a little bit behind what we did actually, we're on par with what we did the year before, but we're not showing an increase this year.
Yes, the biggest year that we've had was in 2004. 2004, we had around $280 million in permits. Looking at at the end of 2007, we're looking at around maybe 220 million. So that's between 2000, we began seeing the decline in 2005, 2006, and it looks like we're going to be almost at a steady number between 2006 and 2007.
Now, what would happen, because right now you're showing a budget shortfall, am I right?
That's correct.
What happens if we don't have a 5% increase in sales tax, but we stay flat? We don't decrease, we just stay flat. What does that do to the numbers?
Oh, well, let me see if I have it here. If you look at the sales tax in this particular, and let me see if I have it here in my book. I don't have it in the PowerPoint. But I'll get that number to you as soon as I get it here. Sales tax, as I have mentioned in the past, is the number one revenue source for the city. Right now, between fiscal year, and this is something you don't have, but it should be in the book, in your book that I passed out last week. If you look at the sales tax between fiscal year 2007 and 2008, and this is the 1.5 cents that the city general fund gets, we're looking at, and I'm 5%, I'm increasing it by 5% between fiscal year 2007 and 2008. That's a $1,275,000 increase. To answer your question, If it remains flat, that means we don't see that growth of a 1,275,000 in 2008. Right now, for the year, we are looking at just for the, when I only have history of 10 months, we should be getting the August allocation probably this week. But right now, we show around a little bit over 6% between fiscal year 2006 and 2007. Our last allocation that we had, which was a month ago, the sales tax number was flat. We had increases at the very beginning of the fiscal year, very strong. We had a double-digit increases, and we've seen a downtrend during the last part of the fiscal year. But because of those strong months that we had at the beginning of the year, we show an increase around 6%.
Okay, but I guess the question I have is, at the end of the day, using the figures that you have right now and your projections, if we remain flat, what is the difference in the deficit between the million that you're talking about now and the revised figures with a flat sales tax?
Increase it to $1 million, $1.2 million.
Okay, so we're looking at a $2.2 million deficit at that point.
If there is no growth.
If there's no growth. Now, it's my understanding that, I guess Commissioner Atkinson had made a comment about the retail versus wholesale rate from PUB. Okay? Do you have any idea what we could do if we got our electricity at a wholesale rate rather than a retail rate?
I spoke to the finance director this afternoon, PUB. He is going to be working on those numbers. He probably will have some information to us possibly by Monday of next week. This would require a resolution in order to allow this particular rate, because right now those rates do not exist. PUB doesn't, for their own buildings, they don't get charged the wholesale rate. There is no such thing as a wholesale rate. So they would have to develop the wholesale rate, bring it to their board, the PUB board, through a resolution, and then bring it to the city commission through a form of an ordinance to lower those, to create those wholesale rates. I asked how much more would we gain from this as far as revenues, and at that time he didn't have an answer. He probably will have something for us. That's Leandro Garcia, the finance director for the PUB.
Let me ask you something.
Hold on one second.
Wait, let him
hold
finish.
on. I'm not. Okay. Thank you. So at this point, are you aware that Mr. Leandro Garcia, is that the name of the gentleman?
That's the, yes, CFO for the PUB, correct.
Is he currently getting those numbers?
He started working on them, my understanding, this afternoon.
Okay. Are you telling me that he's going to have those numbers anytime soon, or can we give me a timeline here?
He said possibly Monday.
Okay. And what is the deadline for us to finalize and approve our budget?
Monday, 17th of August, next week.
Is there any way to expedite this?
Commissioner, if I may, I spoke with him too. I know Pete and I met with all the different entities yesterday. We met with the Brownsville Museum of Fine Arts, and we met with the zoo, and we met with Mr. Crow and John and the director over at the Camille Leitner Playhouse. And we brought up this issue because Commissioner Atkinson had brought up that wholesale retail deal. And so that's another option that we're looking into. Then I spoke with Sir Leandro, and I thought he was under the impression that he was told not to look into this.
He was told not to look into this?
That's what he told me when I spoke to him. But then I told him to just continue to look into this. And I called Pete and I told you that we were going to look into these numbers. And I told him to get that information if he could before Monday, so we could get all this information hopefully this week before the end of the week, before the weekend, so we could try and help get some additional savings to fund these cultural entities. Is that correct, Pete?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Any more questions, Mr. Triani?
Just real quick, do you have any idea what the difference would be? And I understand you don't have all the numbers, but I mean, you've been the financial director here for how many years?
Almost 30.
Would you have any idea what kind of gain we could receive if we were able to do this on the budget, or is this just completely?
Again, Commissioner, is that those rates do not exist right now.
Okay.
I don't know what that rate would be.
But
It's-
PUB sells every day wholesale rates around the country.
Mayor, Commissioner,
Oh, man,
My-
I know you
Not Mary
don't
Ann.
work for
my
PUB.
answer to you, my answer
Commissioner
to
Atkins to speak.
Commissioner Atkinson, my answer to you is what I was told.
Yeah, I know. And PUB's always going to tell us what they think they know. But we got to stand up for what's right. And if we can find ways, everybody cuts. It just seems like PUB doesn't want to cut. And we got to sometimes have to force their hand.
I think it's a good idea, Commissioner. If we could look into that and bring those additional savings and give them to these culture entities who do a great job for the city, I think it'd be a win-win for everybody.
May I interject here, hopefully provide a little wisdom to this, because you have to look at the big picture. You're asking for a wholesale rate that doesn't exist, okay? That means they're gonna have to accept less for what's taken now. And you're asking them to do something without a plan on how you're gonna replace that. And the only way you can replace that loss is by raising utility rates to the customers. And that's what we've been fighting at PUB, and we have accomplished, and we've become the lowest in the region in utility rates by cutting expenses down, doing those things we need to do to reach that goal. Now you're asking them again to go, and I think it's inappropriate, or it's not viable, I should say, what you're asking. You're asking them to give the city a special rate, and somebody else would have to come make it up. Now, I spoke with the bond counsel, and I asked him, because we're governed as to what we can do, what we can't do when we issue bonds. The bond counsel is here, and I asked him what his opinion was, and what he told me, you'll be surprised, and I want you to hear it from him, because it's not what I'm saying, it's what the professional is going to tell you.
Mr. Hinojosa?
Noe Hinojosa, the bond counsel
Here?
for the city of Brownsville.
Is he here?
Mr. Noe Hinojosa, could you come up front and explain to him what would happen if this were to be done?
Mayor, good evening, Noe Hinojosa, Commissioner Garza, and Commissioner Trani. Look forward to working with you all. And of course, the rest of the commission. Commissioner Atkinson, where is he? There it is. Basically, the way things operate right now is that, if you recall, when we did the master restructuring about a couple of years ago, we get I think it's 10% of the adjusted gross revenues from PUB, and adjusted to the point that PUB acquires some of their resources to generate electricity by either gas or other resources and coal and so on and so forth. And once we know what that adjusted gross is, then that's the check we get over the city, less the amount that we use from PUB. And today, if you look at your budget, the proposed budget shows is about $5.1 million. I really don't know, and I've confessed to you, Mayor, when I talked to you this afternoon, I really didn't know how much the charge was from PUB to the city. It's about $5.1 million. So I'm curious to know too, as to what I think may be that difference, if in fact there's a wholesale rate versus a retail rate. What I was told, and I think you were there with me, by John Brusiak, was that we get charged a municipal rate. As of today, I really don't know
What is that municipal rate?
I don't know what that is.
So then it's good for us to look into that.
I think, well, let me just say this. I think it's good for you to make sure you know if there is a difference in the rate.
Exactly.
Two,
Thank you.
in the end, if in fact you wish to make the adjustment, let's say that right now you get charged a retail rate, which I doubt, because I think Mr. Brusiak told us that.
But you don't know.
I don't know that.
I think they
If
get.
there's a change, Commissioner, I'll find the change de minimis. But I'll say this to you too, that if in fact the change is instead of 5,000,001 to be 2.5 million or 3.5 million, then you're gonna have a loan officer, a rating agency saying, wait a minute, what we did 2 years ago was make an adjustment to how flow of funds come into the city, which everybody's comfortable with. I think that if you make an adjustment downwards from, let's say, a $5 million retail price to a 3 million or 2.5 million.
Or whatever the wholesale rate
price,
is.
then we're gonna have to have the discussions that we're currently having today. I mean, you're going through a process, and as I speak to you tonight, I don't know what that difference is.
So you're saying there is a wholesale price, or is there not a
We've been
wholesale
told
price?
that there is a municipal rate price, not a wholesale price and not a retail price. So I think we owe it to ourselves to
look
make
into
sure that we know what that
Like
price
the
is.
university gets a special rate also,
Now-
okay? We have industrial clients to get a industrial rate. The city gets a municipal rate, whatever the rate is, we'll find out, but.
And the rating agency, Mayor, as you well know, sees you, well, you're the owner. You're the owner of the system. You're charging yourself. The question is, how do you charge yourself? You charge yourself at the higher price or at the lower price? I really don't know as I speak to you tonight.
But you can't break the system by making decisions that impact it
You cannot make
adversely.
a deliberate decision and
Yeah.
say, oh, let's adjust it
Yeah.
to a lower rate so that we can get this benefit.
But
of
we
it.
do owe it to
Why?
ourselves to look into it.
Why?
Yeah, looking into it's not a problem,
And it's
but
a
but
good
what he's
idea.
saying is.
Why not?
It's a good idea.
Well,
for
what he's
times-
saying, though, is if you make a decision that adversely affects the system, the bond rating will look at it to where, the bond raters will look at it to where it could jeopardize the bond rating of PUB, the financing of PUB. And I'll put it to you this way, and I know some people don't like to hear this. It was easy to go along and cut the tax rate by 3 cents. Everybody thought it was a great idea. We lost $1.5 million. We're talking about the needs of these entities right now to where that $1.5 million, this would not be an issue. We could make those, we could cover those things and have money left over. The same thing will be happening to PUB. You you micromanage and tell them what you want to do, and the rates they're gonna charge and stuff like that. And before you know it, you're gonna break the system.
Mayor, you call it a loss, I call it giving the citizens a break when we were able to go through it and lower the tax rate. I still commend everyone for doing that. I think that if we look at this issue that Commissioner Atkinson had brought up, it's a good idea. I think they're looking at it, we need to instruct PUB. You sit on the PUB board.
Sure, I do.
You guys can look into this, and maybe we can bring some additional monies to fund these cultural entities.
Well, I think another big issue, and from what I understand, Mr. Cepeda, is you're saying that we need to know how we're paying for our electricity bill here at the city, because at this point, it's not apparent. You don't know if it's a municipal rate, or if it's a retail rate, or what this municipal rate would be in comparison to other municipalities. And those are things, just for clarity, we need to have in our information pool, right?
Yeah.
P. Gonzalez should have that on your bill. You have it, you have the rate.
Commissioner, I spoke to Leandro Garcia this afternoon, and he indicated to me that the city gets what they call municipal rate.
But we don't know which end it
No, we-
is.
I
We don't know
Hey,
if
can
we're
I
on the
ask-
high
can I
end
ask
or
a
the low
question,
end.
DP? If this money were to be transferred, let's say this is possible, and this money does come back, does this money come back to general fund, or to what account does this go into?
General fund.
Okay, when you have a reduction in the utility expense, every fund gets charged. So right now, the total, if you include the total utility for all the cities, around 5.1 million.
No, but what fund would it go to?
Where would the money go?
The general fund, right?
The cash transfer goes to the general fund. The utility expenses that we call and that we get a report from PUB is allocated to each fund that has buildings or operations, like the airport gets charged, the bus department gets charged.
So there
Through a journal,
If there-
all we're doing is just a journal entry.
If there is a change, and the savings, supposed savings is to come, it won't necessarily come back in the form of a cash transfer, it'll come back as a savings to the departments?
We may get, since we're going to be reducing, the way the formula is, we
You'd
get.
reduce the cash transfer that
We
comes.
we get 10% of the PUB's profit And that, after it's been adjusted, then we go ahead,
get
they go
more
ahead
in
and
the
deduct
transfer.
the utilities, and what's left over is the cash transfer.
So it would increase the cash transfer. So then it's another possible solution to try and help these culture entities.
But you're breaking the agreements that you made in the refinancing with PUB when they agreed to give you 10%.
That, Mayor, is just another idea, Mayor, we're
I'm
we're
not saying,
trying to
I'm not saying,
help
I'm just
everyone
telling
out.
you, I'm just telling you.
I'm just
Well,
saying.
you know what I wanna
it's
say?
worth
I
taking a look.
think the finance director, I mean, the financial advisor wanted to speak. Go ahead, Mr.
I think that if the adjustment is such that it represents 50% of what you currently pay PUB, that's a pretty significant change. If it's more in the neighborhood of 300,000 to 500,000, which we don't know, then it's de minimis. My question is, and as Mr. Gonzalez says, Mr. Garcia may have this information by Monday. By Monday, we'll know
I
that
think we
info.
need to,
have
I
it
need
sooner.
to, I think we need to
I'm sorry?
instruct PUB to look into this and try and find out the information as soon as
And also,
possible.
Thursday.
As
the
soon
financial
as
advisor
possible.
needs to understand this. It will also adversely impact the PUB budget
How do we know
Well,
that?
we don't know that yet.
because
Mayor.
it's loss
Could
of
be de
funds, they have
minimis.
to make it up.
Well, we'll try and find something.
It's gotta make
neutral.
it
I agree
up.
with you, Mayor. I think if the amount is about $2.5 million, $2 million, it's
gotta
something we'll
make it up.
continue to discuss.
But we don't know.
Yes, but we don't know that yet.
Okay,
So-
but right now, let's look at the options we have here. If you want to continue,
All I like to say too, real quick to that, is that every time somebody has a decent idea, everybody wants to come up with a study and, oh, whoa, we're gonna panic. I mean, when is this city ever gonna get out of the rut it's in? If we keep thinking inside the box and, oh, what are the bondholders gonna think? Hey, man, we gotta do what's right for the citizens of Brownsville, protect their interests. We're
We're gonna
trying to
get
look
the
for
answers.
money. We're trying to look for money
we're going to
to
get the
support a lot of
answers.
these things, and we're just, you asked us to think outside the box, to find solutions. We're trying to find solutions. I think PUB should step up and give us the information we want so we can know whether it's feasible or not. That's all we
Well,
want.
Pete, can you make sure
get
that
the
they,
answers.
that they try and expedite this and find out, Mr. Kabler, can you find out? I know I've called them personally and asked for these numbers. We need to make sure that they look into this and let's try and get this information as soon as possible so we can help get you through this budget and we can help all these entities and get the funding for them. It's real important that we maintain and do find monies to help them, because we are gonna do something to help you out. We just gotta make sure we do it right, and let's do it as soon as possible.
I've got a question for Mr. Kabler. How would we get this information? I don't want to go through the problem that Mr. Shergold was complaining about on the Freedom of Information Act. I'd like to get this information. So how would we do that? How can we instruct PUB to hand it over?
Instructions, I mean, they've already been notified and asked to supply that information to us.
And they're willing to give you the information. Nobody's going
Just
to
working
keep
with our
nothing from
finance
you.
director and,
Can we get it by Thursday?
well, I mean, I'll ask them to, or maybe I'll tell them to. How's that?
That sounds better.
I know I called Mr.
Get 'em,
Bruzek
Tiger.
and
Okay. The financial advisor, Noel Hinojosa, let me ask you this. You there? You heard the finance director. Let's look at what we have on the table, okay? We've been discussing this for a long period of time, and we keep going out trying to find a magic solution, okay? That it's not gonna hurt. And what we have here right now is that. And we have a projected 13 million reserves. Will it adversely impact our bond rating if we take $1 million to fund these programs?
Pete?
I'm asking you.
Aside from the
No, I know you're
1.3
asking me.
million that
I
we're
just wanna
already
make
in the
sure-
hole?
Yes.
I think that if, just for purpose of clarity, Mayor, currently, what is being presented to you is that you adopt a budget that has a difference of expenditures over revenues by $1.5 million. In other words, you got a budget that contemplates $1.5 million deficit, más o menos. If you talk about additional programs being funded by $1 million, thus putting you at a deficit of $2.5 million for budgetary purposes. Is that pretty much your concern? And whether that $2.5 million adopted budget deficit, causes you or causes rating agencies a heartburn. I'll say this to you. One of the concerns that they more likely will have is that if that $1 million additional expenditure is a one-time expenditure versus a continuing expenditure.
No, one
If it's
time.
a-
We're talking about
If
one
it's a
time.
one-time expenditure, I'll tell you, I worked with Mr. Gonzalez for the last 16 years, isn't it?
The answer that I get from these three agencies, it is
And I was
a
with you,
continuous funding.
No,
Continue.
but I'm saying one-time funding. I'm asking one-time
Yeah,
funding.
but we met with them yesterday, and they told us that it was not a one-time deal, Mayor. Is that correct, Pete?
No.
They told us it was not a one-time?
It is not a one.
But it's a one-time deal on this for us to look for a solution between now and next budget.
We're looking for a solution.
But yeah, but we keep looking for the solution and we don't
We'll
have
do
it.
We'll do it. We have up to the 17th, Mayor.
Okay.
We got time.
One
Okay,
item, that-
but let me ask you this,
You know
okay?
what,
let-
I'd
let's-
like to
let's-
make a motion
let's-
to table
Wait a
to
second, no, I'm the one that calls for the motion, sir.
No, well,
Okay, yes, I'm the one that calls for the motion.
I'm
But
making
we're
a
still-
motion
We're still
to
discussing, okay?
to get
Let
the
me
number
ask, let me ask the body this.
Motion is on.
If we don't find an alternative solution, what do y'all propose then? Nothing?
No, we will help them, something.
You will?
Give 'em an amount,
You
yeah.
will?
We will give them an amount.
You will fund these requests?
We'll help them.
To some extent.
We'll help them.
Right.
Okay, so we don't have a solution. These people can leave tonight knowing that you will fund the request next time if you don't have another solution. Is that what you're saying? So they can leave here tonight knowing,
yeah,
having some kind of assurance?
I'm not gonna reword
Yeah.
things eloquently as you do, Mayor, as to.
Is that
you know,
an attack, personal attack?
No,
No?
it's placing
Okay.
people on the spot, which you've been
No.
doing every day. We're gonna help these entities. We're
So
gonna
that
try
is
the
an
best
attack.
we can. Pat, we are in a $1.3 million deficit right now, Pat, and you wanna add $1 million.
But who created that deficit, Commissioner? You voted for the tax cut?
Pat, we voted for a
3
tax cut
cents
at that
tax cut,
time, Pat.
which
You're-
put $1.5
Pat,
million
you're talking
short.
to this. You're talking to this body, Pat, like if we haven't had anything to do in the last 4 years, if we haven't done anything for the city.
Did you
All of
vote,
a- no,
did you
no,
vote for the
give me a
3
second.
cents tax
Yes,
cut?
I did.
Okay.
All
So
of
we're
a sudden, you
short-
show up
we're
and you
short-
have solutions to
and we're
everything,
How much are we
Pat.
short, Finance Director? How much are we short this budget?
I've made a motion,
I
Mayor.
second this motion to table.
How much are we
There's a
short?
motion.
You have a motion and a second
Huh?
to table these items.
1.3 million.
There's a
And
motion
we lost
there.
1.5 million with the 3 cents. That really is the solution y'all have.
There's a motion and a second, Mayor.
And a second.
Excuse me, Mayor, before we vote on anything, we have 3 items, I think, currently on the floor. We should,
He moved to table 7, 8, and 9, and I'm seconding.
okay, well,
There's a
if there-
motion.
we need to vote on each item separately,
Okay.
just in
Okay.
case there's a different vote.
We still have a mayor, and we call for the motion, and we follow the procedures, okay? This is the city meeting. Does anybody else have anything to say?
This is not public comment.
No, I
That's
can't
another
open it
thing
up.
you keep doing, Mayor.
City Attorney, can I open this for public comment or not?
You know what, can he, because we do this all the time.
Yes, I can.
Jim,
This affects them.
Jim, these are action items. Can these be opened up for color?
The commission can, as a group,
Okay,
decide to allow
thank you.
someone to come up. The mayor presides over the meeting. Ordinarily, if the mayor wanted to invite someone up, there wouldn't be opposition to that. If there is, then I guess that it would have to be.
But I'm the
sorted out
presiding
by-
officer who conducts the meeting. I can continue to open it up for public comment if there's discussion. If there's any
I have a
discussion.
motion to table item
Okay,
7.
does anybody have anything to say, manager, city,
Can I
finance
say
director? I think the finance director wants to say something.
I just wanted to point out one more item in this budget.
Okay.
And which is not a good news, by the way. If you look at the transfers going out of the general fund to other funds, and we do support not only, we support the transit system and we support the airport. This year's budget, or 2008 budget that's coming up, there is normally we transfer money to the airport. The airport has, and I'll move real quickly here, and this is something that definitely you need to know. If you look at this schedule, we have the actual 2006, the budget for 2007, and the budget for 2008. Under the line item, this is on the revenue side, transfer from the general fund, fiscal year 2006, airport received $2,012,395. Fiscal year 2007, $2,607,402. Fiscal year 2008, 0. Where is the difference being made from? Sale of a building, 2.4 million. If this sale doesn't come through, we would have to amend the budget during fiscal year 2008 to transfer funds to the airport to keep the airport from going into a deficit. And that's something I need to point out to you. Thank you.
Did they get a grant? Did they get like a night, well, that was for the runway though, right?
Yeah, well, this is a capital project.
So the
I'm a-
total deficit would be what?
Okay.
wanna
That's
make-
one at a time. Mr. Atkinson, please.
Okay,
You add those to the 1.3, so.
I'm gonna make a suggestion, and I know some of y'all don't agree with it, but you know what? You know, all this fighting and stuff, it's just hurting the people that are out here wishing to, I mean, they've been here over and over and over, and they see us fight. And I mean, I'm trying to reach out to all y'all here real sincerely. And look, what was on the table was $700,000. And even with that, I'm trying to cut something to where these people don't just, it's either yes or no, and we should be smart enough, and we are smart, to try to come to a compromise where everybody benefits. And I've been working, I'm sure y'all been seeing me get up and passing out papers around, whether you agree with me or not, but I'd like to make a motion on these three items. To give the zoo $180,000, to give Brownsville Museum of Fine Arts $100,000, Camille Playhouse $65,000, Brownsville Heritage Museum $50,000, and Brownsville Historic Museum $50,000. And the reason Heritage Museum needs it because they're building that cemetery that's going to attract a lot of people at that cemetery downtown, and it hits a lot of them. The other two, real quick, let me finish. The other two entities, which is the Ringgold Park, the Children's Museum and the Costumes America, well, the city pays for the building and the utilities, so they're not going to be hurt that much. But
Commissioner.
this is a quick fix, and I motion that.
Commissioner, I'll second it if we can look at this in 6 months, and if we can help them again, they can come back and give us some accounting.
Can look at it.
What they, is that okay with you?
Mayor, this is a one-time deal.
Where is it? Yeah, it's a one-time deal for the year, but I'm talking about their request. The zoo needs $300,000. They're facing accreditation. We don't want to risk them losing the accreditation because they lose billions.
I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about a solution, and later on, you don't need 6 months. If you want to put it on 6 months, you will anyway.
Okay.
And they will, or I will.
Charlie,
So, I'm trying to work with everybody.
I'll
Can
second-
somebody
I'll
please
second
second
it.
my motion?
Excuse me.
I'll second it.
Pardon me.
You have a motion, let's
point of
finish
order.
it, guys.
Call for the motion. I'll second this. I have a motion.
What about,
Um,
we have
all
a
in-
previous
what
motion?
Sorry.
Motion.
Jim?
Mr.
There's,
Gosa?
Mayor, there's already a motion and a second that hasn't been voted on prior
Would
to
you
the
like to
discussion.
withdraw your motion
Not
so we
at
can
this
finish
time.
this or
I
not?
want to, Pete, can you get up there, Pete?
Let me, okay, let me ask you something else, Pete.
I'm trying to work with
Let me
I'm
ask
trying
you
to work
something
with
else, please, because this is a budget process. We have to go through the whole process, ask all the questions, and it's not right for you to try to cut off
Pete.
the finance director.
Pete,
Pete, did you include the raise of the salary to $850 minimum for the employees that I requested?
Yes, sir, I did.
That's in there?
Yes.
Okay, okay, because I requested that, and
Yes.
it's covered?
Yes.
We're okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Pete, is there a 3 or 4% for the
Four.
other staff? 4%?
4%. Pete, are you okay with, if we did something right now with 180 for the zoo and the 100,000, right, for the
It's cutting it in almost in half.
Yeah.
Brownsville Museum of Fine Arts and 65 for the Camille?
What's the total there?
Work with that, or do you want us to?
Well,
Two.
again, my recommendation is, I have not talked to the city manager, but if you're asking me tonight for this, what I would do is I would wait until we close the books, and we won't close the books until November, to find out what our actual reserve will be at the end of fiscal year
But remember you and I were
2007,
talking-
because of the unquestionable amounts that we have right now, especially in the airport and against the sales tax.
Okay, Pete, but you and I, when we met with him yesterday, remember I told you, is there anything we could do to help him out right now and then get him and then look at see what the monies
We can do
are
that.
when they come in November?
Yes, we can do
Where
that.
we're more comfortable with working with his budget.
It's in your court, commissioners. I already spoke.
I'd like to motion that.
I just say
There's a pending
I have a motion to table, and then we continue to look at the numbers, I'd like to see those numbers come in from PUB
Well,
before.
you can withdraw your motion if you want.
No, I don't want to withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I want to make a motion
Okay,
to
so
table.
we have, okay, a motion.
We're gonna help,
Mr. Kabler,
we're gonna help everybody out. I've
Okay, we have a motion to table
Everybody-
by Mr. Cisneros. Do we have a
table, I
second?
And is he tabling 6, 7, 8, and 9, or just 7, 8, and 9?
All three.
All three.
7, 8,
And
and
we have
9, not
s-
6.
No.
We have a motion, second by Mr. Longoria.
I move to acknowledge 6, table 7, 8, and 9.
And then let's do one at a time then.
Yeah.
Okay, motion, first of all, you had a motion
Table.
to
On
table,
7, 8, and 9.
7, 8, and 9, and seconded by Mr. Longoria. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay.
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, one nay, one abstention, and you, Mr. Garza?
I voted to table it.
Table it, okay.
You know what, I vote nay, because
Okay.
I really wish we would have passed this, man.
Okay, nay.
We
Okay,
did.
now we have 6.
We'll get it done.
Can we have a
I move to acknowledge.
move to, okay, second by Mr. Cisneros?
No,
All-
Camarillo.
Mr. Camarillo, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
So move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Second?
I apologize for all y'all have to come see all this shit.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed can stay. Thank you. And again, I know you tried very hard. I'm sorry.